What is up, people? This is Abhishek here, and I want to show you guys how I edit photos for my Instagram on my iPad. So, without wasting any time, let's just dive straight right in. Okay, let's get started. First, we'll go to photos. I have picked a few photos from my Europe trip that I did last year with my friend. So, we'll just quickly edit those and I'll show you how I do it for my Instagram. So, first, I'll copy this photo. So basically I use two apps for most of my editing. 90% of it is done on Snapseed, and I use Lightroom for the color palette, like to change the colors of the photo a little bit if needed, that is. I'll just open Snapseed and paste the photo. Now there was a time where I used to shoot everything in RAW and everything manually on my camera, every single setting, but that phase didn't last for long because it was too complicated to shoot photos like that. Like for example, if you're just traveling and you want to click photos every day of places you see, you can't choose manual settings every single time, and you don't need raw photos for everything. If the lighting is challenging, you need more dynamic range, then it makes sense to use raw. But since I bought my Fujifilm X-T30 camera, I started liking the JPEGs and started using the raw mode a little less. So the basic steps that I follow to edit are as follows. I'll first jump into tune image and just quickly go through everything. I'll reduce the highlights a little, bring up the shadows a little, this much is fine, the brightness by a little, and the ambience slider is very helpful, but don't overdo it too much because it starts to look like those fake HDR photos that you find on Google. So I'll just put it somewhere over here. This much is fine, I think. And then we'll go to edit, then details. Now since this is a photo of a building, you can increase the structure a little so that you can see the clarity in those bricks, and I'll sharpen the photo a little bit. This much is fine. Just check the before and after. Now this is a photo of the hostel that we stayed in. I'll quickly go to white balance. The hostel that we stayed in Venice, it's called Generator. It was a wonderful place. We enjoyed it a lot. The white balance seems to be okay. I'll just warm it up a little, not too much, just a little, like +3, and the tint, we'll move it to the pink side instead of the green. So I think this much is fine, +7, and we'll quickly check the before and after. So this itself makes a ton of difference. Now we'll jump into, I think we'll go into curves. Now we'll first do the RGB curve. I like to crush the blacks a little bit to give my photo a faded look. I'll bring the midtones down by a slight notch and bring the shadows down as well. Yeah, this much. So basically I create an S curve according to my liking, and then I'll go into the blue channel. I like to put these 3 points before changing anything to the curve. So I'll increase the blues a little in the highlights, just a little, bring them down in the midtones, and in the shadows as well. Yeah, I think this is fine. Green, do I need to do anything to the green channel? I'll bring the shadows down in the green down in the midtones as well to give a reddish look to the bricks. And highlights is fine as it is. I like to apply a little bit of vignette as well. to the main focus subject, which is the hostel building over here. Now don't apply vignette too much. I think -42 is fine. Bring the inner brightness up by a little. Yeah, and I'm happy with the result. So this is the before and this is the after. And now what I'll do is I'll go into Lightroom and I'll import that photo. Yeah, this one. Add. And what I like to do is go into color, click the small color wheel on the right side so that you can see the different color channels over here. And I like to tune them up a little, like just play with them. We'll push the red slider to the left by -10. Now that looks good. Saturation, we'll decrease the saturation a little bit. Increase the luminance. What about the orange? Now see, if I bring the orange channel down too much, the bricks get too pinkish, which looks funny, so we'll just keep it as it is. We'll move on to the yellow channel. No changes over here. We'll straight up jump to the blue, and I like to bring the blues down to the teal side just a little bit, because if you go too much it looks funny again. So we'll just bring them down by a little. This much is fine. Saturation down a little as well. Luminance down a little as well. This is the before that we edited on Snapseed. This is the after. Not much of a difference, but it's big enough to notice. Now this one, just a minute. Yeah, it's the Janowitzbruck station in Berlin. I like the way the sun rays were falling on the station floor. So we'll first rotate this image. I'm sorry, not this one. Yes, yeah, rotate. We'll rotate it to the right orientation. This. Now this looks like a scene from a movie. I like the way the sun rays cast a golden glow. Crop the image first. See, the center pole is not exactly in the middle of the photo, so we'll fix that. I'll keep the format to the original 3:4 ratio so that I don't change that. Yeah, now it's in the center, and we'll bring it down over here. Now this is looking better. Now let's start with the same things again. We'll jump into highlights. We'll reduce the highlights just a little. Bring up the shadows so that we can see in the shadow. Now if you bring the shadows up too much, you can start seeing noise over here. This gets muddy, so don't do it too much, and it doesn't look good as well. We want that contrast that the sun provides, the nice shadows and the golden highlights. So this much is fine. Then we'll jump into brightness, bring that up a bit, increase the contrast a little so that we get those crunchy blacks back, but not too much. And the ambience again. See, if I do it too much, it does look good, but it starts looking fake. If I bring this down, it gets too dark. So I think this much is fine. I used to use the ambience filter a lot, but then I started to tone it down a bit. I'll play with the structure just a little. Now structure, what I found out was, if you use it in photos of landscape and architecture, it works really well. But when there are people, it starts getting too sharp on their skin, which doesn't look good. Now in white balance, we don't want to go in the cold side too much because this is a sunset photo. We want that warm yellow glow. So we'll increase it up just a little. This much is fine. Bring the tint up in the pink side of things. So this much is fine. And we'll go into vignette first this time. Bring the attention to the center and the curves. RGB channel again. Put those 3 points over there. And crush the shadows. Bring the midtones down a little. Bring the shadows down over here. Increase the highlights. I'll bring the shadows up again a little because it gets too dark otherwise. Midtones is fine. We'll just keep it down over here. I think this is good enough. I don't want to go into the R, G and B, the red, greens and blues separately. This was the before. This is the after. This is the imported image. Jump into colors, the color wheel. Now again, we'll play with the sliders a bit. Now if you see over here, when I bring the red slider down, this changes to a dark red, which gives a nice soft shading to the ray of sunlight. Like it's lighter over here, but as it goes over here, it goes dark. So that looks nice. The orange, you want to keep the orange over here at 0 where it was to give that golden glow. Yellow, you can bring the yellow down to the left a little. -16 is fine. We'll check the blues quickly. Yeah, we'll bring the blues down a little as well. Now this is somewhat in the orange and teal territory of things, but not too much, just little. This was the Snapseed before and this is the after. Not much of a difference, but I'm satisfied with it. The third one, this is the metronome, which was in Prague. Paste this photo over here. Now this wasn't working when we went up to check it out. I don't know if it even works. We did see the levers over there and a seat for the driver to control it or something like that, but there was no one and this wasn't functioning when we went to check it out. So now this is a dark photo, so I am bringing up the brightness quite a bit. We'll go back to the highlights. We'll bring those down so that we can see the clouds. Shadows, I'll bring them up by 20. And the ambience. Now the ambience in this photo, when I bring it up, it does look good, but I won't go too far. Just then we'll jump into white balance and bring the temperature down this time to make it a little cold, and the greens down as well, like the tint down to the green section. This is the before and after. Then we'll jump into curves. Now another type of curve that I like to do is we'll do a S curve as usual. First, bring the midtones down, shadows over here, and lift the highlights a little. And then we'll go into the green channel. We'll put those points again as well. Then bring the greens up in the shadows quite a bit. And bring them down at the last highlight point. Then go to the blues, do a similar curve for the blues. And then the blues down just a little over here. Then we'll jump into the reds, put down the 4 points and do an S curve over here as well. Bring it up. This looks good. Now what this does is provides a vintage kind of look to the photo. This is the before, this is the after. A huge difference. and then jump to Lightroom back, edit metronome and color. Now we'll jump into blues directly. We'll bring the blues down to the teal side, but not by much. -5. Oh, oops, it went to -15. -6 is fine. Then the green. And the reds. And increase the saturation of the red so that the metronome stands out, and increase the luminance a little as well. Now this is the final pic. This is the before, this is the after. Now that looks awesome. This is one of my favorite ones. I have it uploaded on Instagram as well. Now this I took at the astronomical tower in Prague. We'll go into perspective and straighten this photo first. Looks a little off. This is fine. This is straight enough. Yeah, now it looks better. Now we'll jump into crop and crop the photo this much. Now if you know the rule of thirds, I'll keep my face at the intersection of the top right corner of this grid, and we're going to tune image, decrease the highlights a little, increase the shadows quite a bit, increase the ambience quite a bit, then brightness a little, contrast a little, and done. Now we'll jump into white balance. Now this image is too pinkish in color, so we'll reduce the tint just a little. This much is fine. -10. Increase the temperature. No, temperature is good enough, I think. We'll keep it as it is. This was the photo I took during sunset. Rather, my friend took this photo. So this structure sharpening just a little, and I'll add in some text in the background. We'll just write something over here. Let's see. Breathe. Okay. Now, for the style of lettering, we'll go through the different fonts. We'll go with H8, I think. And we'll place it over here. Now, we want this lettering to be in the background, so we'll go over here on the top right. We'll go to view edits, text, and we'll paint the text where we want it to be. Now if you just click on the eye button over here on the bottom right, the mask, you can see where you're painting. So first I'll paint the whole thing. I'll turn off the mask, and then I'll go here and decrease the text visibility to 0 and erase the parts that overlap with the photo. That is the background of the photo, so that we feel that the text is coming from behind of this mountain. Now the other thing you'll notice is that the text is quite clear, whereas the background is blurred. So the next thing we'll do is we'll go back, edit, and we'll apply a lens blur. We'll first keep the vignette to 0, the transition to 0, to decrease size so that we see how much blur is needed. 22. So we'll click the OK button and then we'll go back to view edits, to lens blur, paint, and we'll paint on the letters to blur them out so that they blend in with the background. And we'll blur the sky a bit as well. Now that looks brilliant. Then we'll go back to curves. We'll put down our 3 points rather. Crush the blacks, bring down the mid-tones a little. The shadows are good where they are. Bring up the highlights just a tad. And let's quickly check if we can do something with the reds. We'll bring them down just a little in the highlights, in the midtones as well. The shadows are good where they are. We'll bring the reds up in the shadows a bit, I think. Yeah, this much is good. Then we'll go into vignette. Reduce the outer brightness a little, increase the inner brightness, and OK. We'll save this image, open Lightroom, we'll open that, we're going to color, the color wheel, and we'll play with the reds. We'll bring them down just a little, bring the oranges down as well. Yellows are good where they are. On the blues, we'll bring the blues down to the teal section just a tad. This is the before and the after. Now I'll show you how to edit this one. This was one of the most beautiful sunsets that I saw in Prague. It was wonderful. I'm happy that we went to the astronomical tower at this time of the evening so that we could catch the golden hour. I'll just quickly edit everything similar. You can see what I'm doing on the screen, but I won't talk too much. Say it with your chest now, say it with your chest now. I'm free, can't nobody take me here and now. It's my time to run it out. It's my time, it's my time to ride it. I'm young, I'm free, can't nobody take me here and now. It's my time to run it out. It's my time, it's my time to ride it out. It's your time, oh. Cheers to all the haters, cause you proved to me that rising to the top was my destiny. And you can see whatever from behind me, but I'm still fly, I know. I'm still fly, let's go. It could all be worse, I could be a hater like you. It could all be worse. Clothes to make the man, but that poison's gonna kill you from the inside. So this photo I clicked on Sacré-Cœur in Paris, the Sacré-Cœur Basilica, and I'll show it to you guys. This is not the best or the clearest picture. You can see there's a lot of fog and noise and smoke everywhere, but you can still make a pretty good decent photo out of it. So we'll jump into tune image again. Now you can see as there are a lot of highlights, I'll first try if bringing them down makes any difference. Yes, it does. So we'll bring them down quite a bit 59. Bring the shadows up quite a bit as well. You can start seeing the trails of smoke in the air. Brightness, we'll keep it almost as it is. We'll increase the contrast just a little, and the ambience, we'll increase the ambience this time, but not too much. This much is fine. Now this lady here is kind of distracting in the image. We'll crop the image down. Yeah, this looks good. Now we'll go into the healing tool and we'll remove the foot just like that. So we'll jump into details now. Go into structure, increase the structure by 32, sharpen the image just a little, and we'll go to vignette. Make the corners just a little again. So we'll close it down, jump into curves, RGB, crushed blacks, bring the midtones down, highlights. Now this looks nice. This is the final image, the before and after. And this is the last one. Just got a glimpse of him because before I could take another picture, he was already on the train. So we'll increase the shadows a bit, brightness, and ambience. We'll crop the image just a bit. Yeah, this much is fine. And we'll do apply a vignette. Curves. Increase the shadows this time a bit, and the highlights as well. This is the before and this is the after. I think this doesn't need any treatment in Lightroom. This is good enough as it is. So we'll just save this one a bit. And that's it, folks. This was how I edit my images for Instagram on my iPad. If you like this, please subscribe give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next one.